Caleb checked the readings on his ship's small computer. Everything seemed fine. He had landed safely on the strange new planet, a place far from Earth. He was alone, sent to see if this world could support human life. His task was simple: collect data, explore the area, and return safely. Stepping outside, Caleb felt a gentle breeze touch his skin. The air was clear and cool, making breathing easy. He looked around, amazed by the beauty. Tall trees with silver leaves stood everywhere, shining softly under a golden sky. The planet felt peaceful, yet lonely. He started walking slowly, recording everything he saw. Strange, colorful flowers grew along the path, their petals bright and glowing faintly. Small creatures darted away as he approached, hiding quickly among the plants. Caleb smiled. He liked this quiet, simple task. It felt good to be alone sometimes, exploring unknown places. After some hours, Caleb reached what looked like old ruins. Huge stones lay scattered across the ground, covered in vines and moss. He touched one gently, feeling its rough surface. "Someone lived here once," he said quietly to himself. Curious, he continued further into the ruins. Looking carefully for clues. As Caleb explored, he noticed movement from the corner of his eye. Turning quickly, he saw nothing but shadows and plants moving softly in the breeze. "Is anyone there?" he asked aloud. Only silence answered him. Shrugging, he continued exploring. Then suddenly, Caleb stopped. He felt eyes watching him. Slowly turning around, he saw a figure standing quietly behind one of the tall stones. His heart jumped slightly. This was no animal. It was something different. He stood very still, not wanting to scare whoever was there. Slowly, the figure stepped out from the shadows. Caleb saw clearly now it was an alien woman. Her skin was pale blue, shimmering softly in the fading light. Her hair was long and silver, falling gently over her shoulders. She wore simple clothing, worn and old. But what caught Caleb's attention most were her eyes. They were large, deep, and filled with sadness. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Caleb slowly raised his hand, showing he meant no harm. "Hello," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." The alien woman didn't move, her eyes watching him carefully. Caleb took a cautious step forward, smiling gently to show friendliness. The woman finally moved, stepping back slightly but not running away. She seemed unsure yet curious. "Who are you?" she asked softly, her voice gentle yet carrying a heavy sadness. Caleb felt something tug at his heart. "My name is Caleb. I'm from a place far from here, called Earth," he answered calmly. "I'm here to learn about your world. What's your name?" She hesitated before answering, her voice quiet. "I am Alira. This place has not seen visitors in many years. Are you alone here?" Caleb asked carefully. He saw her eyes fill with even deeper sadness as she nodded slowly. "Yes," she replied softly, her voice almost a whisper. "My people are gone. I have lived here alone for a long time." Caleb felt sadness for her, understanding the pain of loneliness. He took another gentle step closer. "I'm sorry, Alira. I can't imagine how hard that must be. If it's okay, I'd like to spend some time here and learn more about your world. Maybe you can help me." She studied him closely, looking deep into his eyes as if trying to read his heart. After a moment, she nodded slightly. "Yes, Caleb, I will help you. But be careful, this place holds memories and dangers." Together, they walked slowly through the ruins. Alira moved gracefully, knowing exactly where to step. Caleb followed her, careful to respect her quiet, thoughtful mood. Occasionally, she stopped, touching a stone or a plant gently, her eyes showing memories of happier times. As they moved through the ruins, Alira began sharing small stories of her people. She told Caleb how once they had lived happily, building beautiful cities and creating amazing technology. But war had come, destroying everything and everyone she loved. Her voice shook slightly as she spoke, sadness deepening in her eyes. Caleb listened quietly, feeling his heart fill with sympathy. "You're very brave," he said gently, touching her arm softly. She looked at him, surprised by his kindness. Her eyes softened slightly, showing gratitude and warmth. As the sky grew darker, Caleb suggested they find shelter for the night. Alira led him to a small hidden place among the ruins. It was simple but comfortable, filled with items from her past. Caleb thanked her, feeling glad to have met someone on this strange planet. Before they rested, Caleb set up a small fire, providing warmth and light. Sitting near it, he watched Alira closely. Her sad eyes reflected the dancing flames, and Caleb felt strangely drawn to her quiet strength and beauty. Alira noticed his, gazed and looked back at him, her expression curious but gentle. "Why do you look at me like that?" she asked softly. Caleb smiled warmly, feeling slightly shy. "Your eyes," he admitted honestly. "There's something about them. They enchant me. I've never seen eyes that tell so much without words." Alira looked away, shyly hiding her face. But Caleb saw something change in her expression, a tiny spark of warmth and hope. It was not yet a smile, but it was a start. Caleb felt determined to learn more about this mysterious woman and perhaps help her find happiness again. As they settled down to rest, Caleb knew his simple mission had become something more important. He had found Alira, and somehow he knew their journey had just begun. The next morning, Caleb woke early. Soft sunlight streamed through gaps in the shelter, creating small patterns on the ground. He stretched, feeling rested but cautious about the new day. He glanced over at Alira, who was already awake, quietly, watching him. Her eyes still held deep sadness, but there was also curiosity now. "Good morning, Alira," Caleb said gently, offering her a friendly smile. "Did you sleep well?" She nodded slowly, pulling her simple cloak tighter around herself. "It was the first peaceful sleep I've had in many years." "Thank you, Caleb." Caleb felt a wave of happiness at her words. He stood up slowly and began packing his gear. "Maybe today you can show me more of your world," he suggested softly, trying not to push too much. "I would like that," Alira said quietly, standing gracefully. "Come, there is something I want to show you." They left the shelter and walked slowly through the quiet ruins. Alira led Caleb along a hidden path he hadn't seen before. The path twisted gently through thick plants, the air filled with the pleasant scent of flowers. Occasionally, Alira paused to explain something about her world, her voice soft and thoughtful. Soon they reached a clear, beautiful lake surrounded by tall, silver-leaf trees. The water sparkled gently in the sunlight, clear and inviting. Caleb stared in wonder. "This is amazing," he whispered, deeply moved by the peaceful beauty. "It was once a place of joy," Alira explained softly. "My people gathered here often, sharing laughter and songs. It has been quiet for a long time now." Caleb watched as Alira gently touched the water's surface, causing small ripples. Her eyes showed memories both happy and painful. Caleb wanted to comfort her, to ease her loneliness, but he knew it would take time. "Maybe one day this place can be full of life again," Caleb said hopefully. "With others, maybe from Earth, visiting and sharing this beauty." Alira looked at him, considering his words carefully. "Do you think your people would truly want to come here, to a world forgotten by time?" Caleb nodded firmly. "Yes, humans love exploring new places and learning about different cultures. And your world has much beauty and history to offer." A slight hint of hope appeared in Alira's eyes. "Then perhaps not all is lost," she said quietly, almost to herself. They spent hours by the lake, talking and learning from each other. Alira taught Caleb about her people's ways, their traditions, and how they had lived in harmony with nature. Caleb listened carefully, taking detailed notes and asking thoughtful questions. He was deeply impressed by Alira's strength and wisdom, despite the sadness she carried. When they left the lake, Alira showed Caleb more ruins, including a large structure that once was a place of learning. Walls were covered in strange symbols and images. Caleb carefully recorded everything, fascinated by the rich history. These symbols tell stories of our past, Alira explained gently, tracing one with her finger. Stories of peace, knowledge, and friendship, but also stories of war and loss. Caleb touched one of the symbols gently, feeling a connection to Alira's pain. War has caused pain on my world too, he said softly. I wish humans could learn from your stories to avoid making the same mistakes. Alira looked at Caleb, her eyes softening with gratitude. Your words give me hope, Caleb. Perhaps the pain of the past can teach us better ways to live. As they walked further, Caleb felt closer to Alira, understanding her more deeply with every moment they spent together. She was no longer just an alien woman he had met by chance. She was becoming a true friend, someone he cared about deeply. As evening came, Alira suggested they return to their shelter. They walked slowly, both lost in thought. Caleb wondered what the future held, not just for himself but for Alira as well. He hoped that someday soon, the sadness in her eyes would completely fade. When they reached their shelter, Caleb began preparing their evening meal from supplies he had brought from his ship. Alira watched curiously as he worked, fascinated by the unfamiliar food. Try this, Caleb offered gently, handing her a small piece. She tasted it carefully, surprise and delight appearing in her eyes. It is wonderful, Alira said quietly, a small smile finally appearing on her lips. Caleb felt a rush of joy seeing her smile, even slightly. I'm glad you like it, he replied warmly. Food from Earth can be very different, but also comforting. As they ate, Alira began asking Caleb more questions about Earth. She listened closely as he described cities, oceans, mountains, and forests. Caleb shared stories of his home, his family, and why he chose to explore new worlds. Alira was amazed by the variety and richness of human life. It sounds beautiful, your Earth, Alira said softly, her voice filled with genuine wonder. Maybe one day you can see it yourself, Caleb suggested hopefully. Alira's eyes widened slightly, and a spark of interest and excitement showed clearly. I would like that very much, she admitted quietly, surprising herself. Caleb felt warmth fill his heart. He realized how deeply he wanted to help Alira experience happiness again. In that moment, he decided he would do whatever he could to make her dreams possible. Later, as the stars filled the night sky, Caleb and Alira sat quietly outside their shelter. Caleb pointed out the stars that reminded him of Earth's sky, and Alira shared ancient stories her people told about the stars. As Caleb listened, he glanced at Alira, noticing how her eyes shone softly in the starlight. Her sadness was still there, but it was fading slowly, replaced by something new and hopeful. Caleb felt grateful that he had landed on this planet, meeting someone who had quickly become very important to him. Before they went to rest, Alira looked deeply into Caleb's eyes. Thank you, Caleb, she whispered gently. You have brought something precious back to my life hope. Caleb smiled warmly, deeply touched. And you've given me something precious too, he replied softly. Purpose and friendship. As they settled down for the night, Caleb knew their adventure was far from over. He felt excited and hopeful, certain that together they could bring new life and happiness back to Alira's world, and perhaps, in doing so, find their own place of peace. Joy. Caleb woke up the following morning to find Alira already outside, carefully examining a plant near their shelter. She seemed thoughtful, her delicate hands moving gently as she studied it. He stood quietly, watching her for a moment, captivated by how graceful and peaceful she looked. Alira noticed Caleb and smiled softly, her eyes brightening slightly. Good morning, she said gently. Did you sleep well? Caleb stretched and nodded. Very well. Thank you. What are you looking at? Alira held out the plant carefully. This herb is special. It can heal injuries and relieve pain. My people used it often. That's useful, Caleb said, impressed. Could you teach me more about your plants and how to use them? Alira nodded happily. I would like that. Come, I will show you. Together, they explored the area around the ruins. Alira pointed out different plants, explaining their uses in detail. Caleb recorded everything, deeply interested in how her people had lived so closely with nature. As they worked, Alira shared more stories of her past. Caleb listened closely, understanding her better with every new tale. "Alira," Caleb said thoughtfully after some time, "do you think we could rebuild this place? Bring it back to life?" Alira looked around, her eyes filled with memories. "It is possible," she said slowly, "but it would take great effort." Caleb smiled encouragingly. "Together, I believe we can do it. Step by step, small efforts can lead to big changes." She looked at him closely, her expression hopeful yet unsure. "You truly think this could happen?" "Yes," Caleb said firmly. "We can start small." "Show me a place you'd like to restore first." Alira led Caleb to a quiet spot near the ruins, a small garden that had once been beautiful but was now overgrown and wild. Together, they began clearing away weeds and planting new flowers Alira chose carefully. Caleb worked hard, enjoying the peaceful labor alongside Ali Reed as they planted. Alira began humming softly, a gentle melody Caleb hadn't heard before. "That's beautiful," he said quietly. "Is it a song from your people?" "Yes," Alira replied softly. Continuing her task, "My mother taught me this song when I was young. It speaks of renewal and hope." "Perfect for today," Caleb said warmly, smiling at her. Alira returned his smile, shyly at first, then with growing confidence. Seeing her happier made Caleb feel deeply satisfied. By the afternoon, the small garden looked fresh and welcoming. Flowers and herbs stood neatly planted, gently swaying in the breeze. Caleb and Alira sat back to admire their work. "We did this," Alira whispered, her eyes shining brightly. "I did not think it could look like this again." Caleb gently touched her arm. "This is just the start. Imagine what we can achieve with more time." Just as Alira opened her mouth to reply, a sudden noise broke the peaceful silence. Both quickly stood, alarmed by the unfamiliar sound. It was the distant roar of engines, loud and harsh. "What's happening?" Caleb asked, tense and alert. Alira's face turned pale, fear showing clearly in her eyes. "Scavengers," she said quietly, her voice shaking slightly. "They come to steal and destroy. We must hide quickly." She took Caleb's hand and led him swiftly into the thick woods surrounding the ruins. Hidden among the trees, they watched carefully as a large spaceship landed in a clearing nearby. Rough-looking figures stepped out, carrying weapons and shouting. Loudly to each other, Caleb observed closely, his heart beating fast. "Who are these scavengers?" "They travel between worlds," Alira whispered, afraid. "They take whatever they find useful and leave destruction behind." Caleb squeezed her hand gently, reassuring her. "We'll stay hidden for now. We'll think of something." Together, they quietly moved deeper into the woods, careful not to make any noise. As night fell, Caleb and Alira found a safe place to rest, hidden among dense bush. Caleb knew they had to plan carefully. Alira sat close beside him, trembling slightly. "We'll figure this out," Caleb promised softly. "They won't hurt your world again." "They destroyed everything once," Alira said softly, sadness filling her. Voice again. "I don't want to lose anything else." "You won't," Caleb said with quiet determination. "We'll protect this place together." Caleb spent the night thinking carefully about their options. Alira finally fell asleep beside him, exhausted and worried. Caleb watched her quietly, feeling protective and determined. He wouldn't let anyone harm Alira or her world again. At dawn, they cautiously returned to their shelter. Caleb gathered what he needed, including equipment from his ship. Alira helped, still fearful but trusting Caleb's calm confidence. They carefully avoided the scavengers, who were noisily searching through the ruins. "We need a plan to drive them away," Caleb whispered thoughtfully. "Something unexpected." Alira looked at him, worry clear in her eyes. "What can we do?" Caleb smiled reassuringly. use their weakness over confidence. They think they're alone. Here, we can surprise them. Together, Caleb and Alira quickly made a plan. They carefully prepared hidden traps and distractions around the scavengers' landing site. Caleb used his knowledge of Earth technology and Alira's deep understanding of her environment provided essential insight. Finally ready, they waited quietly for the right moment. When the scavengers returned to their ship, Caleb activated their traps. Bright lights flashed, strange sounds filled the air, and carefully placed barriers blocked paths. Confused and frightened, the scavengers panicked, quickly retreating into their ship and departing hastily. Watching the ship disappear into the sky, Alira turned to Caleb, her eyes wide with relief and amazement. "You did it," she exclaimed softly, her voice filled with gratitude. Caleb shook his head, smiling warmly. "We did it together." Alira's eyes softened deeply, gratitude mixing with something stronger. "I could never have faced him without you," she whispered. Sincerely, Caleb touched her hand gently. "I'm glad we met. You've shown me strength and kindness I greatly admire." Alira smiled again, her face glowing with genuine happiness. It was a beautiful smile that touched Caleb deeply. In that moment, he realized how much Alira had come to mean to him. As they returned to their shelter, Caleb felt hopeful. He and Alira had faced danger together and succeeded. He believed now, more strongly than ever, that together they could rebuild her world, restoring its beauty and peace. That night, under the soft glow of distant stars, Caleb and Alira spoke quietly of their dreams for the future. As they talked, Caleb knew their bond had grown deeper, built on trust, courage, and hope. The days following the scavengers' departure were peaceful. Caleb and Alira continued their work, carefully repairing areas damaged by the intruders. They spent time cleaning up debris and planting new seeds. Slowly, life began returning to the once abandoned ruins. The bond between them grew stronger as they worked side by side. One morning, Caleb suggested they explore further, beyond the familiar area of the ruins. Alira hesitated briefly, then agreed. They gathered food and supplies, setting off on their journey with excitement and caution. They traveled carefully through thick forests and over rocky hills. Alira moved gracefully, showing Caleb safe paths and hidden places. She knew the land well, and Caleb admired how confidently she led the way as they walked. Alira shared more stories of her people, bringing the past vividly to life. Caleb listened closely, fascinated by her gentle voice and thoughtful manner. Each story brought him closer to understanding Alira's world and her deep loss. After several hours, they reached a beautiful valley filled with lush grass and colorful flowers. At the valley's center stood a large stone monument. Caleb noticed that Alira's eyes were filled with strong emotion as she approached it. "What is this place?" Caleb asked softly, sensing its importance. "This is a memorial," Alira explained quietly. "It honors those lost in the war. My family and many friends are remembered here." Caleb felt deep sadness for her. He stepped closer, gently touching her shoulder. "I'm sorry, Alira. It must be very hard." Alira nodded, her eyes reflecting sadness but also determination. "Yes, but it reminds me why it's important to rebuild, so their memory won't fade," Caleb agreed, deeply moved. Together, they cleaned and restored the monument. Caleb carefully removed vines and moss, revealing beautifully carved symbols beneath. Alira explained each one, speaking with warmth and respect. By evening, the monument stood tall and proud again, reflecting the golden glow of the setting sun. Caleb and Alira stood quietly, paying their respects. Caleb felt closer to Alira than ever, seeing clearly how strong and courageous she truly was. That night, as they rested by a small campfire, Caleb carefully watched Alira's thoughtful face. "You've taught me so much," he said softly. "I never imagined learning so deeply about another world." Alira looked at Caleb with gentle curiosity. "And you've shown me kindness I did not expect," she replied sincerely. Before you came, I had. Almost forgotten what it was like to share feelings and hopes with someone else. Caleb smiled warmly, feeling warmth fill his heart. We make a good team, he said simply. Alira smiled back, the genuine warmth in her eyes growing brighter. Yes, we do, she agreed softly. The next day, they traveled further, reaching an area Alira called the Place of Reflections. It was. Beautiful clearing beside a clear, calm pond. Trees surrounded the pond, their branches gently swaying in the breeze. Caleb felt peaceful immediately. People once came here to think and find answers, Alira explained. It was a place of peace and clarity. I understand why, Caleb said quietly, looking around. He sat by the pond, and Alira joined him. They spent time in comfortable silence, each lost in thought. After some time, Alira spoke gently. Caleb, what will happen when your task here is complete? Will you leave? Caleb paused, deeply considering her question. I honestly don't know, he admitted quietly. My mission was to explore and report. But now things have changed. How have they changed? Alira asked carefully, watching him closely. Caleb took a deep breath. Meeting you changed everything. I care deeply about this place now, and about you. I want to see your world restored and thriving. Alira's eyes softened further, touched by his honest words. And after that, Caleb hesitated, his heart beating faster. I think I'd like to stay, he finally said. I don't want to leave you alone again. Alira smiled gently, her face glowing with happiness and relief. I don't want you to leave either. You've become very important to me. Their journey back to the ruins was filled with quiet joy and anticipation. They discussed plans for restoration, imagining the future clearly. Caleb was amazed by Alira's growing confidence and joy. When they arrived back, Caleb realized he had another task reporting to Earth. He knew they needed to understand how special this place was. He carefully gathered data and images, preparing to send his message. Alira watched him closely, slightly nervous. Will your people truly understand? She asked softly. Caleb nodded confidently. I believe they will. Humans care deeply about learning and helping others. Your story will inspire them. He sent his report with clear details and hopeful words, describing the planet's beauty and Alira's incredible strength. Alira waited quietly beside him, hopeful yet unsure. Within hours, a reply arrived, bringing relief and excitement. Earth supported their mission fully, promising help and resources for rebuilding. Caleb and Alira shared the good news, smiling happily together. This is wonderful, Alira said, her eyes shining with gratitude. We won't be alone. No, we won't, Caleb agreed warmly. Together, with help from Earth, we'll create something beautiful again. In the following days, they worked even harder. Caleb taught Alira about Earth's technology, and she taught him deeper understanding of her world's nature. They combined knowledge, creating plans filled with hope. One evening, after working hard, they rested quietly, watching stars appear in the sky. Caleb looked at Alira, feeling his heart fill with deep affection. Alira, Caleb said softly, his voice gentle but serious. Meeting you changed everything for me. You showed me courage, wisdom, and kindness beyond anything I expected. Alira's eyes filled with emotion, deeply touched by his words. You brought hope back into my life, she whispered sincerely. You've given me more than I could have dreamed. Caleb took her hand gently, looking deeply into her enchanting eyes. Together, we brought new life to your world, and you've brought new meaning to mine. Alira smiled warmly, her face radiating joy. In that peaceful moment, they knew their future was bright, filled with shared dreams and hopeful possibilities. They were ready to face whatever came next, united by trust and deep affection. Caleb and Alira spent the following days busy with plans and tasks, excited about the future. Caleb regularly checked for updates from Earth, making sure help was on the way. Together, they continued repairing and improving the ruins slowly, bringing life back to Alira's world. One morning, as they worked in the garden they had restored, Alira noticed Caleb suddenly looking concerned. "What's wrong?" she asked gently. "There's a storm coming," Caleb explained, checking his equipment carefully. "It's strong. We need to prepare quickly." Alira nodded, her eyes worried but trusting Caleb's calmness. They quickly secured their shelter, protecting important supplies. Caleb moved efficiently, clearly experienced in handling difficult situations. Alira followed his instructions closely, finding comfort in his confident actions. Soon, dark clouds filled the sky, and wind began to howl fiercely. Rain poured heavily, and powerful lightning flashed overhead. Caleb and Alira stayed safely inside their reinforced shelter, listening quietly to the raging storm. "This reminds me of storms on Earth," Caleb said softly, trying to reassure Alira. "They can be scary, but they pass." "My people feared these storms," Alira admitted quietly. "They often brought destruction." Caleb gently placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "We'll be okay. We prepare well." Hours passed as the storm continued relentlessly. Caleb carefully watched through a small window, checking conditions. Outside, suddenly a loud crash echoed nearby, causing both Caleb and Alira to jump in alarm. "Something fell near the ruins," Caleb said urgently. "We need to check it once the storm eases." When the storm finally began calming down, Caleb and Alira quickly stepped outside to survey the damage. The area around their shelter was thankfully safe, but closer to the ruins, a large tree had fallen, crushing part of the newly repaired garden. Alira's eyes filled with sorrow seeing the damage. Caleb gently touched her hand, reassuring her. "We'll fix this," he promised confidently. Together, they began clearing away the broken branches and debris. While working, Caleb noticed something strange beneath the fallen tree, an opening that had been hidden beneath thick roots. "Look," Caleb said, excitement growing. "There's something under here." Alira quickly joined him, curious. Carefully, they cleared away more roots, revealing a hidden doorway, old but still intact. "Did you know this was here?" Caleb asked. "No," Alira replied, surprised and intrigued. "This is new to me." With careful effort, Caleb opened the door, revealing a staircase leading underground. They cautiously descended, lighting the way with Caleb's portable light. The air felt cool and dry as they moved deeper below ground. They soon reached a large chamber filled with artifacts, each item carefully arranged and preserved. Caleb carefully examined the objects, amazed by the variety and excellent condition. Alira's eyes widened with awe, recognizing many items from stories she'd heard growing up. "These are from the early days of my people," Alira said softly, gently touching an ancient, beautifully carved stone tablet. "I never imagined they still existed." "This is incredible," Caleb agreed, carefully documenting each artifact. "These will help us understand your history even better." Together, they explored the chamber, discovering more fascinating items. Each object brought excitement and hope, reinforcing their commitment to restoring Alira's world. As they examined the artifacts, Caleb noticed Alira looking thoughtfully at a beautifully designed necklace. He gently lifted it, offering it to her. "Would you like to wear this?" he asked softly. Alira hesitated briefly, then smiled warmly. "Yes, thank you." Caleb gently placed the necklace around her neck. "It suits you," he said kindly, noticing how the jewelry seemed perfectly matched to her gentle elegance. "Thank you, Caleb," Alira said quietly. Deeply touched. After carefully recording everything, they returned to the surface, bringing a few items with them for closer study. They spent the rest of the day discussing their discoveries, excited by the history they were uncovering together. As evening approached, Caleb received an update from Earth. Help was finally arriving the next day. Relief and excitement filled both Caleb and Alira, knowing they would no longer be alone in their mission. That night, Caleb and Alira sat quietly, reflecting on their experiences. Tomorrow will change everything. Caleb said thoughtfully. "Are you ready?" Alira looked deeply into Caleb's eyes, determination and hope shining clearly. "Yes," she said firmly, "because you're here with me." Caleb felt deeply moved by her words. "Together, we'll build something amazing," he promised sincerely. Early the next morning, they watched the sky carefully, eagerly waiting. Finally, a ship from Earth appeared, gracefully landing near their shelter. Friendly, helpful people stepped out, greeting Caleb warmly and kindly welcoming Alira. Caleb introduced Alira, proudly explaining how bravely she had faced challenges and how deeply she understood her world. Alira spoke confidently, sharing her story and dreams for the future. Everyone quickly started working together, sharing ideas and making plans. Alira amazed Caleb with her confidence and knowledge. He watched her proudly, grateful to see her taking a leading role. Days quickly passed with renewed energy and teamwork. New shelters were built, supplies organized, and plans made to restore the larger community. Caleb felt deeply satisfied seeing Alira smiling more frequently, actively involved in shaping the future of her world. One evening, after a long day of successful work, Caleb and Alira walked together to the garden they had first restored. The garden was beautiful again, new plants thriving despite the storm's earlier damage. Alira gently touched the flowers, smiling softly. "I never believed this was possible," she admitted quietly. Caleb smiled warmly, gently holding her hand. "Everything's possible when we work together." Alira looked deeply into Caleb's eyes, gratitude and affection clear in her expression. "Thank you for believing in me, Caleb," she whispered gently. Caleb squeezed her hand gently. Always, under the soft evening sky, surrounded by new growth and hope, Caleb and Alira felt deeply connected. Their bond had grown stronger through challenges and discoveries. Now, they faced the future together, confident and ready for whatever came next. In the weeks that followed, Caleb, Alira, and the Earth team worked hard. Each day, the ruins transformed into a lively, beautiful place again. New buildings rose where broken stones once stood. Gardens flourished, filled with plants Alira carefully chose. The whole area seemed alive, hopeful, and full of new beginnings. Alira amazed everyone with her deep knowledge of the land and its history. She guided the team gently but confidently, clearly becoming their trusted leader. Caleb watched her proudly, seeing her grow stronger and happier every day. One day, a new shipment from Earth arrived with more tools and supplies. Among the supplies were books, pictures, and detailed information about Earth and its people. Caleb eagerly shared these with Alira, enjoying her excitement and curiosity. "Your world is fascinating," Alira said softly one evening, carefully looking through pictures of cities, forests, and oceans. Caleb smiled warmly. "Maybe someday we can visit together," he suggested hopefully. Alira's eyes lit up with joy at the thought. "I would love that," she replied sincerely. As the community continued growing, visitors from nearby planets began arriving, curious about the changes. Caleb and Alira welcomed them warmly, explaining their vision and the importance of peaceful cooperation. The visitors left impressed, promising to share the news with others. One afternoon, while exploring deeper into the ruins, Alira and Caleb discovered another hidden room. Carefully, they opened the door and stepped inside. Unlike the previous chamber, this one held a large collection of ancient texts and scrolls. "These documents must contain valuable information," Caleb said, excited. Alira nodded, gently lifting an ancient scroll. "These are records of our greatest scholars. Their knowledge could greatly help us now." They spent hours carefully studying the text, amazed by the wisdom contained within. They learned new methods to improve farming, build stronger shelters, and create effective medicines. Each discovery brought fresh excitement and ideas to share with their team. As evening fell, Caleb and Alira returned to their shelter, deeply satisfied. They discussed their findings late into the night, excited about the possibilities. The next morning, Alira gathered everyone to share their discoveries. The team listened closely, inspired and motivated by the ancient wisdom. Soon, new projects began. Using the knowledge from the text, days became filled with productive activities. Friendships deepened, and a sense of community grew stronger. Caleb and Alira found moments to relax together, quietly reflecting on their journey. One calm evening, they walked to the beautiful pond they had found earlier. Sitting beside the water, Caleb felt deeply grateful for everything they had achieved. "We done so much," Caleb said quietly, looking across the peaceful pond. "I couldn't have imagined this when I first landed here." "Neither could I," Alira agreed softly. "I thought my world was lost forever. You've helped me see that wasn't true." Caleb smiled gently, touched by her words. "You've given me a new purpose too, Alira. I feel deeply connected to this place and to you." Alira looked into Caleb's eyes, her expression filled with warmth and sincerity. "You have become very special to me, Caleb. You've helped me remember how to trust, how to hope, and how to feel happiness again." Caleb gently took her hand, squeezing softly. "You've shown me courage, strength, and kindness beyond measure. Being here with you has changed my life completely." As they sat quietly by the pond, stars began appearing in the evening sky, softly illuminating their faces. Caleb noticed the peaceful happiness reflected in Alira's eyes. He knew deeply how special this moment was, how rare and valuable their connection had become in the days that followed. The community continued thriving. More visitors came, inspired by their progress and eager to learn. Alira became known widely for her wisdom and gentle leadership. Respected by everyone she met, Caleb supported Alira fully, proud of her growing confidence and joy. Together, they shared their knowledge and vision, creating a place of peace and cooperation. Their efforts soon drew attention from leaders of other worlds, curious about their success. One day, an important delegation arrived from Earth, eager to see the progress and understand their achievements. Caleb and Alira welcomed them warmly, carefully showing everything they had built. The visitors listened carefully, deeply impressed by what they saw. "This place is remarkable," one of the visitors said sincerely. "You've created something very special here. It's because of trust, cooperation, and hope," Caleb explained warmly, looking proudly at Alira. The visitors stayed several days, learning deeply from Caleb, Alira, and their team. They left inspired, promising continued support and cooperation. That evening, Caleb and Alira celebrated quietly together, deeply satisfied with everything they'd achieved. Caleb watched Alira, noticing again how brightly she smiled now, how confidently she spoke and moved. "I'm so proud of you," Caleb said sincerely. "You've truly become the heart and soul of this place." Alira looked at Caleb warmly, her eyes filled with gratitude and affection. "None of this would have been possible without you," she whispered. Softly, Caleb gently touched her face, deeply moved. "Meeting you changed my life forever," he said quietly. "I'm grateful every day for the chance to be here with you." Alira smiled tenderly, leaning gently into his touch. "And you've brought light back into mine. Together, we have built a future I never dreamed possible." As the stars filled the night sky, Caleb and Alira shared quiet moments of deep connection and joy. They knew their journey was far from over, but they felt ready for whatever lay ahead. Together, they had turned a broken world into a place of hope, love, and endless possibilities.